Welcome to another episode of How to Make Money in Stocks with Investors Business Daily. Last week we mentioned that we put out the Best Mutual Funds 2016 Awards report. And if you haven't taken a look at that, be sure to. You got the best funds over the last 10 years by all the different categories.
And also, Matt and I are going to do a really fun webinar this next coming Thursday at 4 p.m. That's Pacific time. Be sure to tune in because we're going to help you navigate the new investors.com.
All right, and on this week's show, we're going to take a look at which stocks make some screens for Bill O'Neill and Warren Buffett's criteria.
Two good names to follow.
Absolutely.
Okay, but first, let's take a look at the market. All of the major indexes were in the red for the week after a 5-week rally. Now, after the terrorist attack in Brussels, the market was really fairly resilient, which was good to see. Oil pulled back, and we saw the dollar index rise for the week. Now, we have 5 distribution days on the NASDAQ, and we have 1 on the S&P.
Right, and we've seen a number of breakouts kind of struggle and
Fizzle,
stall. Not really fizzle, but not really take off,
really, yeah.
right? They're just kind of sitting there in a lot of cases. And that hesitation is reflected in the weekly chart for the NASDAQ as well. It did move higher, as Amy, you just said, for 5 straight weeks before that streak was broken this week. But note how during that time it hit resistance at the 40-week line and how the 10-week moving average still remains below that benchmark. Now that, plus the struggling breakouts that we've seen in some of the leaders, shows a lack of enthusiasm among large investors.
Now, many stocks continue to trade in a sideways, kind of a seesaw way. Exciting growth names like IBM,
Yes.
not an exciting growth name, continue to do well. We also have other exciting, how about Granite Construction? We have construction names.
Take what the market gives you.
You do. This building or construction-related names also had a good week. And one name that actually had a move that was more of a typical type of breakout was Infi. It gapped up March 23rd on volume that was 290% above average, and it added to those gains again on Thursday. Now, this was out of a cup-shaped base, and it had the look and the feel of a more traditional breakout, rather than the turnaround stocks off of the bottom that we've seen.
Right, now speaking of cup-shaped bases, one that has been forming one is premium pet food maker Blue Buffalo Pet Products. And it's working now, its IPO base. And it's deeper than you'd prefer to see. It had about a 47% decline within the base, but it has shown signs of accumulation in the right side of that pattern. And you can see an IBD stock analysis article and video that I did on Blue Buffalo on our site. And I also did one on Weibo, which is known as the Twitter of China, and it's posted 5 straight quarters of triple-digit earnings growth. And now it's working on a first stage base and may form a handle, which takes a minimum of 5 days to form.
All right, now Virgin America spiked 13% Wednesday after Bloomberg reported that the company is attracting takeover interest. But the news was not so good for Nike, which slumped as it fell short of views, especially in emerging markets.
Now, we do have some interesting earnings reports coming up next week, including IBD 50 stock Cal-Maine Foods, home builder Lennar, 2014 IPO stock Dave & Buster's, and Paychex, which is actually near a buy point. So those are ones to keep an eye on.
Yes, be sure to dust off the watch list. Look at stocks that might be setting up as we gear up for earnings season.
Now, we've mentioned before that our sister company, MarketSmith, has created a number of different stock screens, including some that focus on the criteria and the investing strategy of IBD founder Bill O'Neill and Warren Buffett. So today we're going to take a look at some of the stocks that make those lists.
And it's kind of fun to run these screens and see what stocks populate both of the lists.
Right.
So both O'Neill and O'Neill and Buffett, how can you go wrong with those two names?
Legendary guys.
Legendary traders. Okay, they have a fundamental criteria that's similar. But something that's interesting is that a couple of industry groups from both Buffett and O'Neill made these lists.
Now, one sector is building, and we'll start with a few stocks that are on Bill's list, including U.S. Concrete and Beacon Roofing. Bill, of course, first looks for companies that have really strong fundamentals, and USCR, U.S. Concrete, certainly has that. It has an annual EPS growth rate of 129%. And a 73% return on equity, which is more than 4 times the 17% minimum ROE that we look for.
So it's pretty strong.
Very strong.
Heavy construction names have been featured in IBD's industry themes section of the paper. Now, U.S. Concrete is also a name that I have I have gone over many times in the Stock Market Today videos. The group strength and the accumulation distribution rating for these stocks has been robust. Now, as of Thursday, the group rank was 25 out of 197, and that is a huge jump from 156 only 6 weeks ago.
Right. You want to pay attention to the stocks in a group that moves up like that. Now, the two top gun stocks also make Bill's list. That's Smith & Wesson and Sturm Ruger. And they both took a hit on Thursday after a New York official said that they were failing to warn investors about the risk they face due to what he called grave reputational risk that is facing the gun makers. And of course, gun control is a major political issue. But Ruger and Smith & Wesson have been seeing a lot of buying recently.
Now, until Thursday, as Matt said, the gun makers were hitting both value and growth lists. They have top composite ratings, and they both have strong outlooks for the rest of 2016. But the sell-off on these stocks just illustrates that anything can happen. And this is why it's necessary to have a solid game plan. And as Matt said, these are more prone to political headwinds.
Yeah, they're very news-driven for the last several months. Now, you'll also find a couple of retailers on Bill's list, including Ulta Beauty. Now, like the other names, Ulta has the kind of strong fundamentals that Bill looks for, including a 24% return on equity and a 30% annual EPS growth rate. And since breaking out in big volume earlier this month, it's been trading in a tight range.
Now, something to point out here is that none of these names are making a lot of headway. So it's good to see these names holding up, but it would be nice to see them make bigger gains. Now, Ulta reported strong earnings that rose 27%, and after that, the stock moved higher on the news. But since then, it's been kind of in a holding pattern. Now, in a stronger market, these names should be moving higher.
Right. Now, Five Below is another retailer that is on that screen. And this is a teen-focused discount retailer that tried to break out this week after reporting, but like you mentioned, it ran into those headwinds. And of course, we have seen a lot of that in this market.
We have. We've talked about the O'Neill screen. So in the next segment, we're going to switch over and talk about the Buffett screen.
How would you like an edge that helps you pick winning stocks faster? An edge that is proven to outperform the S&P 500 by 76% since inception, and that you can take advantage of today without spending a dime. More on that in a minute. Each day, our top market team at Investors Business Daily scans our proprietary stock lists and screens to find superior stocks with the most potential for big gains. They analyze these stocks every step of the way to show you basis, buy points, sell signals, and the right time to take profits. It's about as close to hold your hand investing as you can get. Introducing Leaderboard by Investors Business Daily. For a limited time, you can try all of the premium features Leaderboard has to offer for a full 14 days at absolutely no cost to you. You'll receive unlimited access to all of the time-saving research, powerful investing tools, the leaders list, cut list, and expert analysis you need to develop a winning investing strategy. And it's all 100% free for your first 14 days.
Now that we've seen a few stocks that make the MarketSmith screen based on Bill O'Neill, IBD founder Bill O'Neill's criteria, let's take a look at some of the names that make the screen for Warren Buffett.
Now, both Bill O'Neill and Warren Buffett have been incredibly successful. We've said that before in the stock market, but they have taken different approaches. So taking a look, what's interesting though, taking a look at this Buffett screen does bring up some names that are on Bill's screen as well, and one of those names is Facebook.
Right. Now, one criteria for making the Buffett screen is to have profit margins that are among the best within the industry, and Facebook certainly has that with a 55.6% annual pre-tax profit margin, which is nearly double, by the way, Alphabet's still strong 33.1% profit margin. And of course, Facebook is the kind of younger, innovative, fast-growing company that Bill looks for as well.
Now, as we look at the chart, Facebook is in an 8-week cup-shaped base, but it has one big problem. The lack of volume is just not there.
Right.
And this is confirmed by the E accumulation distribution rating, which is the weakest possible. Now, the positive is that it is holding steady, but as we have found with a lot of other names, Facebook just is not making very much headway.
Indeed. Now, in the last segment, we mentioned that building-related stocks like U.S. Concrete and Beacon Roofing made Bill's list, and a top home builder, NVR, makes the Warren Buffett screen. The group ranking is still a very lowly 112 out of the 197 groups that IBD tracks, but the leaders in that group are building bases. Now, of course, Buffett is famous for liking well-run companies, and you can see that with NVR's 30% annual EPS growth rate, an annual sales growth rate of 15%, and a 32% return on equity.
Now, notice how tight NVR has been behaving in the last week. Again, it hasn't made a lot of headway, but it's holding up pretty well. And this is the only home builder that makes the Buffett list. Mm-hmm. There are other home builders that are basing, and they may end up breaking out when they report earnings, but NVR is the one that showed up on Warren's screen.
And it is because of that growth and the return on equity and other factors. Now, Alaska Air is another stock on Warren Buffett's screen in MarketSmith, and it also is an efficiently run company with a 24% annual pre-tax profit margin and a 37% ROE. Now, both of those get a passing grade based on Bill O'Neill's CanSlim criteria as well.
And again, sounding like a broken record, but it really does tell a story. This is yet another stock that is basing, that has had a lack of volume or professional buying. The accumulation distribution rating here is a C+. The company is due to report earnings April the 21st. So next month, Matt, is going to maybe be a big one for determining, as all these stocks, there are a lot of big names due to report. Let's see what that happens with the overall market.
Right. We'll see if the big investors remain hesitant or not, or they get a little bit more enthusiastic and start buying more.
Because we have Netflix, Facebook, Alphabet, all the big names report next month.
That's right. So that's a quick look at some names that are on the screens in MarketSmith for Bill O'Neill and for Warren Buffett. And you can check those out and build your own custom screens by taking a free trial of MarketSmith, which you can do at marketsmith.com, or by visiting our site, investors.com/investingshow.
So be sure to tune into the webinar next Thursday. That's with Matt and me to help navigate the new investors.com. You can sign up for that at investors.com/investingshow.
All right. And while you're there, be sure to check out the Best Mutual Funds 2016 Awards Special Report. And you'll find, again, all of that at investors.com/investingshow.
Okay. See you next week, everybody.